Hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar, Refugees and Stateless Minorities, Solidarity in the Face of Crisis. I'm Heman, Senior Research Associate at South Asia Research Institute for Minorities, an organization defending minority rights in South Asian region. I will be moderating this thought-provoking discussion today. But before we begin, I want to thank each one of you for taking the time to join us and extend solidarity to communities that continue to fight their basic rights to exist. Let's start by framing today's discussion with some context. According to the UNHCR, the world is currently witnessing the highest number of forcefully displaced people in recorded history, stating 120 million as of May 2024. Out of these, more than 35 million are refugees, with millions are being stateless, people denied citizenship, and are deprived of fundamental human rights. Amongst the most persecuted stateless communities are the Rohingya people, who have faced decades of systematic violence and discrimination in Myanmar. Alongside that, other marginalized minority communities whose stories often remain unheard or unseen. But in today's webinar, we seek to amplify their voices, explore their journey of resilience, and cultivate meaningful global solidarity in the face of ongoing crisis. Truly, I'm honored to have an exceptional panel of speakers with us today. Each one brings not only their lived experiences, but also a deep commitment to advocating for justice, human rights, and the dignity of displaced and stateless communities. It is my privilege to introduce our distinguished panelist, Aisha Ghazi, an acclaimed documentary filmmaker whose work includes Suffering in Silence, the first ever documentary on the war victims in Pakistan to be showed at the House of Lords in London. Through her impactful storytelling, Aisha has brought the struggles of refugees, including the Rohingya, to the global audience. Nay Lwin, co-founder of the Free Rohingya Coalition, prominent human rights advocate, and a powerful voice against the genocidal campaign targeting the Rohingya people despite facing immense personal risk. Nay has continued to deliver fact-based information, analysis, and advocacy that bridges community and inspires global solidarity. Next, our speaker is the Zarni Soe, a passionate Rohingya youth activist and humanitarian worker dedicated to advocating for justice, freedom, equity. Zarni also represents the voice of the next generation working on humanities or the front lines of the human rights efforts. Harshita Rathore, an award-winning journalist and editor at Newsreel Asia, known for her powerful docu-series The Dinner Table, which humanizes the struggle of persecuted communities, including Burmese refugees. Harshita's storytelling fosters empathy and understanding. Next, Ali Johar, he is a co-lead of the global movement against stateless and co-founder of the Rohingya Human Rights Initiative. Ali's decade-long efforts have centered on empowering stateless communities, particularly through education and advocacy, which also amplifies their voices on the regional and global platform. As we all know that stateless and forced displacement are deeply interconnected issue. For many, including becoming refugees, is not merely the result of war or violence, but it stems from generations of systematic exclusion, persecution, and the denial of citizenship. We can take the example of Rohingya people. Decades of state-sponsored discrimination in Myanmar have rendered them stateless in their homeland. stateless minorities are denied to access to basic amenities like education, healthcare, livelihood. Yet, despite these profound challenges, their resilience and courage are unmatched. But in today's webinar, we have the privilege to firsthand hear from these tirelessly advocate for these communities. Let's get started with the Aisha Ghazi. Her documentaries shine a light on untold stories of struggles and survival, just like one I've named, like Suffering in the Silence. Her work on the Rohingya refugees at the Bangladesh-Burma border is truly inspiring too. Ms. Ghazi, what do you think the role of storytelling plays in building empathy and solidarity in the stateless and displaced community? Additionally, what challenges have you faced bringing those stories into life? Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me here, and thank you so much for all the panelists who are here with us today. Um, the moment as we are talking about, we are here to just talk about statelessness, and at the moment around us in the region, and in the world globally as well, the biggest stateless community is of Rohingya community. Obviously, that is the Rohingya community because millions are displaced, and that is the I would say state statistics. We don't know the real number, to be honest, and that is the reality that happens everywhere when we count as a state. It depends how much we want to present, and the ground realities are generally different from state versions. Anyway, it is globally accepted that these are, despite if even if we don't count the correct number, they are the biggest stateless population in the world at the moment, and in the region, obviously, they are sitting. Most of them are sitting in the Bangladesh, Rohingya, and Burma and Bangladesh border, and then they are in Indonesia and Malaysia and other countries. And how they make their way to Bangladesh and how they make their way, especially to Malaysia and Indonesia, that is another chapter of their migration and their suffering and their trauma, what they are going through. But at the moment, I will just look at it from the legal perspective, because this is where the whole trauma begins. This is where the whole injustice begins, because it is not something. It is not a natural phenomena. It is not something that is, that can be defined under any kind of moral definition or any ethical definition. There is nothing. It's just a legal dilemma. It's just I would say, a law-made catastrophe for the people, because statelessness is a legal failure. It is, and further, it is endorsed by the disgraceful social discrimination, the social discrimination that endorses the exclusion of a certain community, because we are the majority and these are a small community, and obviously they are vulnerable because they are a small community. They are minority wherever they are, stateless people. So the majority's will is to exclude them. They are the others. So this is how it works, and this is then further endorsed in the parliament, because it's people's will. It is endorsed by the parliament through legal system. So the whole system of oppression basically is being run by the legal system, by the law. Very interestingly, there are some laws, obviously international laws, as well as state-based laws about how to deal with statelessness and this and that, but it's just a paperwork. Otherwise, as you said in the beginning of your talk, that at the moment the number of stateless people globally are at the rise, and that is the biggest number ever seen by human history, written human history so far. So something is going wrong somewhere. So there is some lack of will somewhere, and in the people, in the power corridors who can control it, and it's not something beyond human capacity to address, because the globe is ours. Globe, we all share this globe. It's no one's right to make a claim over this is mine and that is yours and this is yours. No, this is not the case. Anybody who is sitting somewhere in a very small hut, in a very small, in a camp, in a plastic camp, in a fabric camp somewhere, that land belongs to him at that time. If we talk about the big things like UN Charter and this and that, they say, okay, there is freedom of this and that, and there are some sureties for your certain basic I would say the your basic demands as a human. So that is a food, and that is privacy for your private life as well. So if we consider privacy of your life, your private life is your basic right, if is your fundamental right, then a little hut, a little camp, wherever it is on the ground, that little piece of ground belongs to you as long as you are living there. And considering somebody that he is just an alien on this land and land belongs to somebody else, just, it's a man-made, it's a fake system of oppression that is in place everywhere. And so how does it work? It works like, okay, you are uprooted from the lands you had been living, just like Rohingyas. You had been, living there uh, for centuries, right? And then you had been uprooted, and then you go somewhere else, and then where you land, those people say, okay, this is our land, and you don't have certain rights because you do not belong to this state, and you are not a citizen of this state. When you are not a citizen of this state, you do not have any right over anything that comes under even your fundamental rights. Like education is a fundamental right at the moment. Your protection from torture is a fundamental right. But the communities that are stateless, they cannot make any claim over any state that, look, this is happening to us, so come and protect us. Because they are not citizen. They are not just a citizen of any place because they had been uprooted from one place and the other place is not accepting them. I cannot understand that, the big words of human rights and big things about human rights activism and this and that and that. And in this world, it is still persistent. How is it possible? Not just persistent, but on a rise. How does it work? I could not understand. Like I'll just give you an example of Bihari population. Bihari population is in Bangladesh since 1947 because they had migrated from India to that time in East Bengal, East Pakistan. And since then they are there. And in 71, they had been deprived of their citizenship. How does it work? And for last 50 years, they had been, stateless because they had a right over Pakistan. They could not come here. They had a right over Bangladesh because they had migrated there and they were citizens of Bangladesh in East Pakistan till 71. But they were deprived of their rights. So how can just 120 or 250 people sitting in the parliament can decide that the whole population of a million or 2 million, they are stateless. They have no right over any piece of land, that they are not our citizens, even if they are living here for like 50 years or something. So it's all a legal game. All a legal gimmick how they play around with law and all the injustice. It's very interesting phenomena that all the injustice is being done in the name of justice, in the name of legal system. So when the legal system is a discriminatory system, it's a discriminatory law that some people can be rendered stateless. It's a law. Law is for justice, and your law says that some people can be stateless. So they don't have any right over anything. They do not have any claim over they do not belong to anyone. How does it work? I don't understand that. And if I don't understand that, that's why as a lawyer by profession, that is why I chose activism rather than the legal side of this work, because this is the time when the activists need to work. If there is an injustice in the legal system, how would a lawyer work about it? And how it works in discrimination according to the law, because still there are, I think, 24 countries where women cannot pass on their nationality to their child. There are still 24 countries because it's a discriminatory law. The nationality will pass on just through their father. So this leaves so many children stateless because the mother cannot pass on their nationality, and the fathers in the whole world where everybody is uprooted because of the wars and everything. Half the Syria is such a big country. Half the population is refugee. Half the population is refugee, and out of that half of the population, majority did not, when they were running away from out of their houses, they could not carry their legal documents, so they cannot prove who they are. So this is how it's working. Even if you, for example, in Myanmar since 1982, they had been living there for centuries, and suddenly in 1982, the parliament decided that these people are not citizens of this country, and that's it. And that's it. So and you could not do anything, and the whole world was watching, and you had been, wiped away from your lands, and you are drowning here in these, when you are coming to Bangladesh, and you are drowning in the big ships when you are going to Malaysia and Indonesia, and the whole world is watching. Okay, this is a textbook example of genocide. This is what UN said. And you're okay about it. That's it. The whole purpose was to make a definition about it. It's how it works, I don't know. It's discrimination in the law, and it's arbitrary. Obviously, it's arbitrary deprivation of the citizenship, as I said. And then there are deliberately left gaps in the legal system that is failing all this system, failing all this system of justice. That if somebody has his legal documents, and they can prove that they had been living there and now they are here or wherever they are, they know their identity and they can prove their identity. There are deliberately left gaps in the legal system that statelessness cannot be undone in certain ways. So it just shows that the people who are making the laws, international laws, or the laws for the certain countries where the most of the population, stateless populations are living, there is a lack of will. There is no other reason for such a huge population of stateless people who do not have any right over any state. So there is obviously legal gap in all this. So what happens with them? They don't have any right to education. They don't have any right to work. They don't have any right to health care. They do not have any right to the basic human decency of life. So, they are alive because they are alive, and that's it. You can't quit. And the most important thing is they don't have any freedom of movement. When I'm stateless, I don't have any documentation. In these our times, and for a century or something, before that, the times were very different. So now you need a document to go beyond this border. If I'm persecuted here, I can't just move away. I cannot try my luck because you do not accept me. Okay, let me go. But how would you let you go? You will have to, bribe the human smuggling people, the whole chain of human smugglers, and you have to take 50% risk. If you are drowned, you're drowned. If you are not drowned, maybe you will be, you will be landing somewhere on some shores where you are not welcomed, and this is how it works. So if you do not want some people, if you think they are not citizens of your country, at least there should be some system that at least they can move away. They can move to the country of opportunity, wherever, they might find a bit of acceptability for themselves. But because of documentation that is needed everywhere, it's a whole system of human smuggling that is getting advantage, that benefits from this whole system. So that is another debate we can talk about. To talk about it, we need another full session. So we need, at the moment, what we need an accountability for the international law. There is international law. There is 1961 Convention of Reduction of Statelessness and something something, and some 70 plus countries adopted it and nobody implemented it. So what's the point of such glossy your conferences and your treaties written in the big books if nobody's going to implement it? So for implementing a law, there has to be a will. So when there is no will, there is no way. This is where the activism is very important in this whole scenario. Even the lawyers, the judges, and this and that, nobody can do anything. We need activists in this whole scenario to come up and make a public opinion about it. And then your law says that, stateless people deserve minimum quality of life, at least. You know, this is embedded injustice to the people. Why? Just because they are stateless, or they had been hit by some man-made catastrophe, they're just reduced to the people who just deserve the basic. So they can just keep, living, and they can work as the cheap labor. So this scenario of this whole system of oppression can go on and go on. So uh, at, using your platform or wherever I talk about this, I just call for one thing, and that is a legal action. But I want more and more activists in this field who can speak and who can make public opinion and who can build public pressure about this injustice. It can be anyone, it can be me, it can be you. The Rohingya people who are living there just a century ago, they could not even imagine that this can happen to them. The Biharis, for example, in our region, they were just a century ago, they were living in Bihar and Assam and wherever. They were living in that belt of India. They could not imagine that this can happen. So where we, the people who feel we are very much settled in our countries and stuff, you never know what's going to happen. So this is what I wanted to contribute. Thank you.
I mean, this is how we can contribute and voice for these communities. As you rightfully said, that the globe is for everyone, not for the certain people or certain ethnicities. Believe me or not, your work is a, I mean, testament of the power of the media in bridging the hearts and driving the meaningful change through your documentary and the work you do. Thank you very much. Moving forward, our next speaker is Nay San. Nay San, your work as a leading advocate for Rohingya have been nothing short of inspiring. Despite facing immense risks and challenges, you continue to amplify the voices of Rohingya people. Will you please share your journey with us and what drives your unwavering commitment to this cause? In your experience, how does global solidarity play a role in addressing the Rohingya crisis and the struggle of the other stateless minorities? Over to you.
So I think in January also we had the same panel. I share about the situation. Now also I will focus mostly on the situation the Rohingya are facing inside the country, because the situation has changed since the January. And in regard to your question regarding the solidarity, of course, since in 2017, the Rohingya crisis made the global headline, and we got the solidarity from the civil society, NGOs, and the government, and the general public, of course, but the situation has remained unchanged, and the situation is worsening day by day. Now the situation is completely like this community is completely destroyed in the country. So before I continue about this, let me talk a little bit about our background. There are some confusion, like we don't have any state. We are completely a stateless minority in the world. It is not true. We belong to Arakan, which is now known as the Rakhine State, part of Myanmar or the Burma, at the western part of Myanmar. So until 1982, the first speaker mentioned about that as well. They entered the new citizenship law that make us stateless within our own country. That is the reason we never demand to grant us the citizenship or the ethnic status. We always demand to restore the citizenship and to restore the ethnic status. That is the most important thing to understand. These people, they have the state, they belong to Myanmar, particularly to Arakan or the Rakhine State. So before that, the Burma or Myanmar gained their independence from the British colonial in 1948. After the 1948, we had the full citizenship. The term Rohingya was recognized as an official ethnic. If I have to give you an example, in 1949, after independence of Burma, my great grandfather wrote a letter to the Ministry of Justice to ask whether he need to apply the citizenship. He got the response from the Minister of Justice that he doesn't need to apply the citizenship because he belonged to one of the indigenous ethnic group of Burma. So we had the parliament member, my parents were the civil servant, my grandfather were the prominent officer in the town, in Budiram Township. So we had the equal right. But they used, I'm sorry, I think still the mic is okay now, maybe. Yeah. So since they plan to wipe out this entire Rohingya population from the country, they accuse us we are the illegal immigrant from Bangladesh. That is the reason they use this 1982 citizenship law as a tool for the genocide. So we faced a massive wave of violence in 1978, again in 1991, 1992, again in 2012 and 2016, and the latest one was the 2017. We thought this 2017 one would be the last one, but Unfortunately, in 2024, after I shared the panel here in January, our situation has worsened. Uh, like it is completely destroyed now. It is not by the Myanmar military. Myanmar military is, of course, the sole perpetrator in the past. But we have got the additional perpetrator, which is the Arakan Army, known as the AA. They are the Rakhine Buddhist rebel group fighting for the greater autonomy, possibility, independence. So before they fight against the Myanmar military, they have been propagating across the media that they will respect the Rohingya right. But when they actually captured the town, we could see their true intention to wipe out the Rohingya population. So since the March this year, they have committed the significant massacre. Like on May 2nd, in one small village, we call the hamlet, not even the village. Village is bigger than the hamlet. In the hamlet, more than 600 people, including the small baby and the women, elderly people, children, and the disabled people. They massacre more than 600 these people in one single day. This happened in many other places, like the amount is not bigger like the 600. In other villages like the 150, 100, 120, 50, like that, they killed in Budirang town alone. In 2 months of time, they killed more than 2,000 people. Most of them were slaughtered. They didn't even use the bullet because they are saving since they are the rebel group, they save their bullet and they slaughter the people. Yeah. And in Budirang town, the whole town, villages were burned to the ground by this group. And until now, nobody talk about this. No media talk about this. No government has condemned this rebel group. And this in this Budirang town alone, the Zarni Soe and also the Ali Johar, both my brother, they were from the Budirang. I was also born in Budirang. My grandparents' houses were there. Those were more than 100 years old. Those were burned down by this Arakan army on May 17. So I don't have home anymore. I was expecting one day I will go back to my hometown. At least I have my grandparents' house. I can visit there because I was born there. So I'm completely homeless. I feel like homeless now. Even I live in somewhere because this is where I belong to. And this, in this town, more than 200,000 were displaced, and they are now concentrated to four different places, and they are not allowed to travel from one place to another. And there are no humanitarian agency at all, no livelihood, no education, nothing. They are just surviving. Yeah, you may ask, how they survive. They cannot walk. They don't have any earning. So the people like us, who are in abroad, we are sending them the money through this rebel group. They are taking the commission and they got some money. With this money, they have to buy the grocery. So this grocery also, the prices are triple than the normal market. This is how they are surviving. Most of them are trying to flee from the place because they cannot bear all this, the persecution. Every day there are the arbitrary abduction. Most of the young people are targeted because they thought they were they were favoring the Myanmar military. Before they capturing the town, Myanmar military forcibly conscripted some Rohingya youth, but most of them they have already left from this military. That is why these youth were targeted, and the Arakan army, this rebel group, is now facilitating the human trafficking because they have the intention to wipe out this Rohingya population. That is why they are facilitating the human trafficking. If they want to live for Bangladesh, they are facilitating. If they want to live for Malaysia, they are facilitating. So human trafficking, now we are expecting more boats will arrive to Indonesia because the Malaysia and the Thailand, they are not allowing to land at their border. So most of them flee to Indonesia from there. Since their final destination is Malaysia, they try to sneak into Malaysia from the Indonesia. So after they capturing the town, Budilong town, they continue their Maundo, which is the very border to the Bangladesh. In this town also, more than 80,000 were displaced, and from there, at least 40,000 had to flee to Bangladesh. And of course, houses were burned down. The Rohingya villages were targeted by the Arakan army by dropping the drone boat, while the military base is opposite side of the Rohingya villages. So this thing is continuously happening. Now we are persecuted by this additional perpetrator. The military is not there anymore. Of course, the primary perpetrator is the military. So international response, we always appreciate the NGOs, civil society, general public standing with us. But the government across the world, they know that, that this massacre happened in Maundo town. More than 200 were killed on August 5th by dropping the drone boat. This made the global headline covering by the all Western media. Still, we didn't see the single condemnation from any government, including the UN organization. Of course, that they released, at least UN organization, they released the report, but we didn't see any, the proper condemnation from any group. And that the crime, they are committing, the Arakan army is committing, is the same as the military have committed in the past. So they commit a crime in the Myanmar military and they're forcing the Rohingya to the Bangladesh territory. So if you look at the case at the International Criminal Court that we had recently, the chief prosecutor submitted the application to issue the arrest warrants against the Myanmar military general May Aung Hlaing. So this case is particularly forced deportation case. So the same thing committing by the Arakan army as well. So no one is talking about for the accountability. Without condemnation, without any, if I remember, only the 45 right, one NGO talk about this to refer to the ICC about this crime committed by the Arakan army. Other all organization, the UN and the all government, they keep silent. And the accountability is very much important. Myanmar military has got the impunity since 1978. That is why they keep committing the crime against the Rohingya. And in 2021, after the military coup, they have been committing the crime against the entire population in Myanmar. Still, they are enjoying the impunity. This will be, if the International Criminal Court issue the arrest warrant in the very near future, it will be the fast, the justice mechanism working for Rohingya and Myanmar as well. Once the arrest warrant is issued, of course, it will be very difficult to arrest him, but still it will be a big pressure against the Myanmar military and the leaders. But still, it will also have the big impact on Myanmar as well. So let me conclude. I will not take a lot of time. There are two Rohingya brothers as well. They can talk more about the statelessness and the other things. So what I am demanding, what I want to request to the international community, especially all the civil society activists and the NGO, to talk more about the current situation. Of course, that in the past we have a lot by the Myanmar military. Those were well known to the world, but now we are suffering the same under the Arakan army, the rebel group. This should be talked. This should be discussed. This should be raised by the media and the civil society and the government, UN organization, activists. Then the world will aware this the persecution of the Rohingya is continuing. What they are trying, we have now about the 550,000 remaining in the country. More than 1.2 million. Majority of the Rohingya people are as a refugee suffering in different countries. The large population is in Bangladesh and Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and India and Indonesia and in many other places. So inside the country, only 550,000 remaining. They have the high risks. What the Arakan army is doing is they are finishing the unfinished business of the Myanmar military. This is what exactly they are doing. We have to stop any mean we can, and we have to talk about this safety and security of the remaining people, and then we have to work for their repatriation. As of now, we cannot discuss about the repatriation. We have to first discuss about the safety and security of the remaining people inside the country. Thank you so much. I will end here. If you have any question, I would be very happy to answer it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nathan, for those powerful reflections and for being such generous advocate for Rohingya people. Your words truly remind us of the urgent need of global solidarity. Moving ahead to Zarni, as a Rohingya youth activist, you symbolize hope and resilience. Your work has inspired a generation that refuses to stay silent. What does justice, freedom, and equality mean to you personally as a Rohingya? And how can youth worldwide stand in solidarity with stateless communities?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Uh, my name is Zarni Soe. I am Rohingya youth from Buthiran Township, western part of Myanmar. Western part of Myanmar, now the Rakhine State. Thank you, Southeast Asia Minority Institute for me. Yeah, for inviting me. It is a great honor for me to speak to this important issue addressing the plight of the refugees and minorities. I recently arrived in the United States last month of November 2024. I stand before you both witness, uh, as a both witness and systematic persecution of the genocide. So over the past 80 years, I have been dedicated in advocating for the rights of the Rohingya people and other marginalized community. My roles with the international communities, international organizations like American Youth Peace Network, I work on peace building, social harmony, and addressing on the dire humanitarian situation faced by the displaced people. So today, we came together to discuss very important issue, the refugee and stateless minorities. Across the world, millions of people facing, like in Gaza, South Sudan, Ukraine, and my community from Myanmar face forced displacement, deportation, and ongoing genocide inside the country and denial of basic human rights. So even like this remind us the importance of international solidarity and the uh, actions to address this issue. So as my brother explained, Kunasan explained the background of the Rohingya and current situation. Yeah, the exodus of the Rohingya is not in 2017. So it was it was not also an isolated incident. But as part of the calculated campaign committed by the Burmese military, now the so-called Buddhist rebel group Arkan Army. So it was tested, directed, coordinated, systematic to deny the existence of people. So first, I would like to clear, as my brother mentioned, so we have a state, we are not a stateless. So that's why we demand to restore our rights. So this, our state is like Arkham. So I would like to explain a little bit about the exodus of our people. So and the suffering, the prolonged persecution of our people. For example, in 1971, the most barbaric operation launched against our community, so-called the Dragon King operation. So at this time, during this operation, the Burmese military torture, and it was one of the widespread violations against our people, forcing over 200,000 people to the neighboring country, Bangladesh. At that time, this operation, they were confiscated the document we have. So they confiscated our land. So in 1982, citizenship law is very wide popular. So this 1980 citizenship law, under this law, we were made a stateless. This law is just quite similar to the in 1935 the Nuremberg law. So in the Jews, the Nazi people enacted to disenfranchise the entire Jewish people. So similarly, the Burmese military used this tactic to disenfranchise the entire people of our Rohingya. So under this law, not a single Rohingya were recognized as a citizen of Myanmar. So, yeah, in 1994, the Burmese military stopped providing us birth certificates. So instead, they provided temporary registration card, so-called white card. So finally, so is offered no proof of the citizenship in Myanmar. So as me, I am Rohingya. I'm now 25 years old. I have been, I passed in Burma. I have been living in Burma. So now I passed my examination with high marks, but I was denied of access to higher education inside in Putidong. So yeah, in 2012, or especially the military created a communal violence. So this communal violence, the Rohingya communal violence, racial ethnic violence between Rakhine ethnic group and the Rohingya. So at that time, over 200,000 Rohingya were forced to flee from their home. Now they are living in detention camp, as called camp in Situ Township. So these people, these vulnerable people, are relying on the international humanitarian aid. But since the clash broke out in Arakan in 13th of November 2023 in Arakan state, so the junta blocked humanitarian aid, they cut telecommunication channel, so humanitarian aid entering into the northern Rakhine state. So now these 200,000 Rohingya now face in dire humanitarian situation, humanitarian catastrophe, without having any male parties. Without they are really, really in dire situation inside the camp. Now, so once the junta force lose its battleground in fighting between Arakan army. So at that time, the junta force start force conscription against Rohingya people, first in City and Mongdo, Butiran township. So finally, they were used in fighting ground. So a lot of international media like BBC, RFA, so they covered this news. There are a lot of forced conscript Rohingya were used in battlefield. So why? So they have lost their life, So they were stuck. They were stuck in the in battlefields, not everywhere. So not a single Rohingya were able to move from one place to one place. So of course there is no SSC now. There is no junta. There is no military. But the presence of the Arakan army has become an extra threat for the Rohingya people. Honestly, so after the most heinous military crackdown in 2017, so around 600,000 Rohingya remain in Mongdo, Butiran, Rakitang. However, since the clash between the Arakan army and the military on November 23, more than 100,000 Rohingya have sought refuge toward the Bangladesh. So they are facing now, there's no restoration, they are facing now the dire humanitarian situation. So in Mongdo, since 25th August, so amidst the fighting between Arakan army, so it resulted the Arakan army carried out a discriminate attack toward the Rohingya people, so resulted 200 Rohingya lost their life. So in Bhutan also on May 17, 2024, once the Bhutan fall to the Arakan army, so this Arakan army launched indiscriminate attack towards our people, resulted over 200,000 people were forced to flee forced to flee from their home. They are now living in segregated camp without having any meals. They are facing a starvation situation. So the atrocities committed against Rohingya is absolutely unacceptable and unimaginable. So unprecedented level. So at that time, like the situation now has become an attack, like a mouse stuck in a cage with two hungry kids. So on 26 March 2024, the tough leader of Arakan army tweeted a post that nothing is wrong, calling Bengali to Bengali. They use it as propaganda, hate narrative, their social media, their social media platform to deny the existence of the Rohingya people as the junta did. For example, see, after his tweet in Twitter, his trophy field treated very, very heinously. For example, you are the national security threat. You must be killed. So their intention is clear to clear the existence of Rohingya people in our world from the land. So lastly, I conclude so because other panelists also waiting, and at this time now as they have increased the increased torture, killings, the entire Rohingya people. So at least according to the international report in OSHA, there's since the 13th of November 2023, at least 1,000 Rohingya have been fleeing toward the Malaysia, Bangladesh, and Indonesia with illegal way. Because this is because although they were aware of extreme risks and dangers of these routes, people are choosing them because the Rakhine State has become a graveyard for the Rohingya people. So more more dangerous than river, mountain. That's why people are risking everything in hope of their survival. So the Rohingya are facing ongoing genocidal conditions at the country or subhuman state across the world. So it is long time overdue to have the equal right for the prolonged persecuted. So without effective international solidarity action, there is no peace, there will be no peace, no justice, no equality. As a Rohingya youth, I carry hope that systematic oppression cannot be addressed by a single voice or action. It's require global action. So I also thank to the regional governments, NGO, INGO for strengthening their capacities to work to help to the Rohingya people. So this is time for all of us together to stand with the stateless people and genocide survivor. So let us not wait until it is too late. So their struggle for the justice must be our struggle for the justice. So, and then let us work together to dismantle the structure of hate and build a future where there is no stateless, voiceless, and visible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zarni, for your inspiring words and for unwavering spirit you bring to fight for justice. I mean, you are the beacon of the hope for so many young people across the globe. Moving ahead, Harshita Rathore, your work through the dinner table provides a human face to the struggles of refugees and persecuted communities. I would like to ask, probably our audience would like to know, how did you learn? What did you learn during your recent time with a Burmese refugee family? And how can journalism serve as a bridge between displaced people and the societies they now inhabit?
Thank you, Heman, for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to share the panel. I mean, it has been, as a journalist, it was such an insightful information for me. Also, because I think these are the things that do not come in media very often, and this is the reason why we are not aware of the issues which is happening at such an intense level, especially in Myanmar. And I feel not only like how Aisha said that there are legal things. I mean, legal system has been responsible for providing injustice to the refugees. I feel there are also societal things. I think where media and politicians have played a role in creating a different narrative towards these refugees. I mean, there are misconceptions when it comes to refugees that they are not amongst us, they are foreigners, and they are here as an added burden to our resources. They will take away our opportunities. And these are the narratives that the politicians and the media have perpetuated, which is one of the reason why people do not see refugees from a humanitarian perspective, but they see them as a burden to a country. And I feel that media plays a big role in breaking these stereotypes and letting people know that these are also humans like us, and they all they need is a shelter and food. And so, that is why I recently visited Mizoram. Mizoram is the northeastern state of India, which shares a 510-kilometer long border with Myanmar. So, because it is close to Chin state, a lot of Chin refugees and Burmese refugees enter into India through that border. So, since the coup of 2021, around 30,000 Burmese refugees entered into India. And I had a conversation with a Burmese and a Chin refugee family. Chins are though the Christian minority community. I didn't interview Rohingyas. Because there are mostly Chin refugees in Mizoram. So I had a conversation with them, and I asked the same question that native citizens of India or native citizens of any country have this perception that they will take away our resources. They are our enemies. They are not people amongst us. And the only thing that they said is that we don't want to live here. We also want to go back to our country, but we cannot. I mean, we just want food and shelter, and we'll go back once the things get normal. But even this basic thing is something that we don't understand as humans. And that is why I wanted to bring their perspective uh, for the people, that they are humans and they are not wanting anything special, not any special treatment. And Mizoram has actually been an exceptional state in India. It has been an exceptional example, as in how it accommodates people. It not only provides food and shelter, but it has also provided medical facilities. It has also provided educational support to the children. So it's not that countries and a state cannot provide uh, aid to the people, to the refugees. They can surely do, but it's just the selective approach towards refugees that hinders governments to take actions and to provide support. For example, uh, we have the largest refugee community, Tibetans from China. We have refugees from Afghanistan. There are over 90,000 refugees from Sri Lanka. All have taken refuge in India. Though India, and it's surprising that neither Pakistan nor Bangladesh is a signatory to a 1951 UN Refugee Convention, but still the countries have provided refuge. But the kind of treatment that Tibetans have received and the kind of treatment that Rohingya refugees have received is different, because of their identity as a Muslim community, because of their identity of the religion. So this selective approach and this identity is something that has made Rohingya refugees a target in India. And I mean, that is where I feel the media plays an important role in breaking these stereotypes. There was recently a signboard put up in one of the states in India, where in one district, non-Hindus were not allowed to enter. Especially Rohingya refugees were not allowed to enter as hawkers, where they could, they are going there to sell things and earn whatever they could in their capacity to survive, but they were not allowed to enter. So this selective treatment towards one community is something that needs to be dealt with, and media plays an important role in it. But unfortunately, we do not have any accountability. Our mostly South Asian countries, it was surprising for me as well that all the South Asian countries, Malaysia, Indonesia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, they do not have any accountability because they have not signed the refugee convention. They have only their fundamental laws, which provides shelter, but I mean, it's not the guarantee that the refugees will be able to live their life comfortably or without any problems created by the government. So I mean, we should take some inspiration from countries like Germany, Sweden, Netherlands, where they not only provide shelter, but they also provide employment, they provide accommodation, they provide refugee cards. So in countries like India, it is very difficult to get UNHCR card. I mean, Rohingyas have been fighting for it for so long, but they have not been able to. In fact, they have been kept in detention camps, which is I mean, there are settlements for other refugees, but there are camps for, Rohingya refugees. So it's very difficult to, deal when a particular community is being targeted. And I feel that, there is, I mean, either the country takes the responsibility to, treat its refugees well, or there should be some international pressure towards all the countries, including especially South Asian countries, that they should be made accountable towards how they are treating refugees, and they should be treated with dignity. I feel because these South Asian countries are developing countries. I mean, they are already dealing with overpopulation and less resources. It becomes an easier excuse for them to not be a signatory of such convention, and just say that we are already overloaded with people, and we already have limited resources, so we don't want to take accountability of any foreigner coming in our country. So I mean, that's all I have to say. And I mean, as a journalist, I feel that it's a responsibility for us to bring more and more stories about refugees in India. And in fact, I have not been able to bring out more stories as I could have in my capacity. So I mean, of course, I'll try that. I speak to more people from different refugee communities. Especially, I mean, I remember we interviewed Ali for a story for our organization Newsreel Asia, regarding the same, that how they feel being a refugee in India, and how difficult it is to leave away everything in their homeland and coming to a place where they do not have a security of anything, neither food nor shelter, nor knowing that if they'll ever have anything in the host country. But they are suffering. They are being persecuted in their country, in their homeland, and they are being persecuted in the host country they go to for refuge. Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Harshita, for sharing such deeply human perspective. I mean, I wish and hope that your storytelling continues to challenge perceptions and build bridges of understanding. Last but not least, our speaker is Ali. Ali, as Harshita said, your leadership in addressing statelessness and empowering Rohingya children through education is remarkable. You yourself have the first-hand experience of this. I would like to know how systematic challenges do you believe are necessary to address global issues like statelessness, and how international media or can contribute to achieving these changes.
Thank, thank you, Heman, and also the organizers for inviting me. I've been drinking water because I've got sore throat for 2 days, and just to just I have already committed, I couldn't back off. But I think on top of that, I have been already put onto a difficult situation by my other colleagues and brothers here because they have already covered so much. I'm thinking if I have to not repeat some of the things, what I will have to say. But anyway, I'll try to focus on some of the crucial things that might benefit the audience here. Uh, British came here to divide us and left us in centric countries. And along with that, they gave us a very problematic gift, that is citizenship and documentation. But before British, there was no concept of the citizenship issues. But when they left, when we are divided into countries, we've got this problem of statelessness. And many people would think statelessness mean people who doesn't have a country. But in legal definition, statelessness mean a person who has not been recognized as a citizen by any country under their operation, under the current operation of the law. But having said that, in Myanmar, if Rohingyas are being called stateless or when they don't accept the term statelessness, it has a lot to do. Even when people try to label Rohingyas with statelessness, why they don't accept that label is because it gives legitimacy to a murderous military who took power in their control under a coup in 1962 and imposed a citizenship law. Now, when we call Rohingyas stateless, are we indirectly legitimizing an illegal government came under a coup and took power in their hand and making laws for the country? So if we look from that perspective, when we call Rohingyas as stateless, or any people who have been otherized by a country that has less legitimacy to run, or run by a government that has come to power illegally, we are indirectly giving legitimacy to that kind of regime as well as such, Myanmar military regime. So I think just to give some clarity on statelessness more for the benefit of our audience here, stateless and citizenship and nationality are two different things. While, of course, nationality is a clear human right, and statelessness is definitely one of the acute violation of, human rights. So we have this Universal Human Rights Declaration, although many countries would argue that they did not sign 1964 or 61 Stateless Convention or 1951 Refugee Convention. Universal Human Rights Declaration is being signed by almost all the states who are member of the UN. Now, if we look at the Article 15 of the Universal Human Rights Declaration, it states that every human being has a right to nationality. Now, per se, India or Bangladesh or Malaysia, who did not sign 1951 Refugee Convention, or Pakistan, who did not sign 64 or 61 Stateless Convention, when they have already signed the Human Rights, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 15, according to Article 15, these countries are obliged to provide or treat people who doesn't have a citizenship of any country with minimum human dignity, or even make the efforts to give them access to citizenship or a nationality. Now, when state fail to do that, they will be coming up with excuses of all the other conventions that they did not, or they may not sign. So just to highlight a bit more on how people become stateless. I came to this podium of, building awareness on statelessness since 2021. Even before that, although I was working on the different refugee-led advocacy, including one of our own organization called Rohingya Human Rights Initiative, I was totally unaware of the term statelessness, because in this region of the world, we do not really talk about these issues. And also the countries who are obliged to protect people coming from the background of impacted by the citizenship issues in the region. The countries doesn't have mechanism to protect those people. We totally lack, basic or require knowledge on these issues. I think that's why I also lacked the knowledge on the citizenship and statelessness issues, because although I myself being impacted by the citizenship issues, but in 2021, something amazing happened. I started working on and researching on the issues. While I was researching, I have found more than 75% people who are being impacted by citizenship issues or identified as stateless are from mostly minority communities in all the countries. wherever they found themselves in this unfortunate situation. And at least 24 countries, still does not provide citizenship to children through women, or a mother who is a citizen of a country from these 24 countries, if they have given birth as a single mother or they have married to a foreign national, that woman is unable to confer their citizenship to their children of their own country, although they are descendants or even they are recognized as full citizen of that country. For example, Nepal is one of the such country. Malaysia used to be one of the such country, but they are amending their the citizenship bill in recent days. Hopefully we'll get a positive connotation there. And statelessness can also result from the stripping of citizenship. For example, recently after the coup of 2021 in Myanmar, most of the politicians who were able to flee from the country, they took refuge in other countries and started advocating for a democratic change in Myanmar. At least 2 dozens of such politicians are being stripped of their citizenship, and now they found themselves under the situation of statelessness. This kind of stripping of citizenship happened from the Middle East so much because state often find people who are criticizing the state, a problematic person, and strip them of the citizenship of that country. And I know friends from Kuwait and other countries who are being stripped of their citizenship, although they have been once a member of a parliament. So, having said that, which are some of the countries where statelessness are day by day increasing? There are Dominican Republic, Estonia, Ethiopia, Iraq, Kenya, Lebanon. There is Myanmar, Nepal, Russia as well. Saudi Arabia has statelessness. South Africa, Sweden, even in some of the European countries. In US also, even there are statelessness. Currently, many Ukrainians have found themselves in statelessness situation, and among those who are being most affected are children who inherited statelessness from their parents. For example, under the 1982 citizenship law, my parents were stripped of their citizenship. As a consequence, I was born as a intergenerational stateless person. And the same goes to a Bengali descent person in Pakistan who may not be able to access citizenship, and as a result, their children would find themselves in intergenerational statelessness. And I think this is similar for the Urdu-speaking Bihari communities in Bangladesh, who may not who may not have citizenship of Bangladesh, and as a result, their children would find themselves in statelessness. And interestingly, stateless refugees who are in different countries, for example, in India, because there is no law that provide a child who confer citizenship by birth, a child who is born to stateless refugees, for example, Rohingyas, their children would find themselves in statelessness situation because their parents brought the statelessness to them. And in a country, a democratic country like India, even though they are born in this country and raised, they won't be able to access citizenship. And it is also because Myanmar would not accept them as their citizens. There are Bidun communities in Kuwait, Iraq, and UAE, Rohingyas in Myanmar, of course. There are also other communities in Myanmar. Palestinians are also considered under the statelessness situation. Dominican, Haitian descents. There are Nubians, Pemba communities in African countries. And even in Thailand, there are statelessness issues. For example, hill tribes in northern Thailand have the issues of statelessness. And many former Soviet citizens have also found themselves in statelessness situation. Now, coming to the point of Rohingyas in other countries who are found in refugee situation, apart from being treated differently in Myanmar, how they are being impacted in those countries where they're taking refuge. So when a Rohingya refugee flee to Bangladesh or Malaysia or India, as they lack a refugee protection policy, the Rohingya refugees may often find themselves in detention situation. When a stateless person is being detained in another country where they were not born, if the country lack a citizenship, a refugee protection policy or a statelessness law, the person would end up in a detention for indefinite time, because these countries would try to deport that person to the country of origin, and the country of origin would say this person does not belong to us because she is not a citizen of our country. So as a result, there are hundreds of such people, including Rohingyas, in several detention in India and other countries, who would find in indefinite detention. For example, I have myself interviewed many people who have been lingering in detention for more than 2 decades. And there are women, there are children, there are men who are detained at the age of 40. Now they became 60. Now they became 55 years old and completely lost the hope. So, my colleagues here have mentioned 1951 Convention, 1964, and other, which are some of the laws or the convention most often state would refer for failing to protect the people who are trying to find refuge in these countries. But I just wanted to say that a country or a policymaker would not really require a law to protect a person of a concern or a person who need protection. They just have to be compassionate or humane to, if I want to protect a person, I don't need a law to protect a person. I need a law when I fail to protect a person, and to protect myself from that failure, from that obligation, I need a law. So all these countries who are giving excuse of this law are using that law just to protect themselves from that failure. If I have to protect somebody, I don't need a law. I just have to be compassionate and human toward that person and treat that person with human dignity and safety, provide safety and security. And my friends here have also mentioned about camps. During Nazis' time, we thought camps or concentration camps belonged to Nazis only. If refugees are being forced to stay in those kind of camps, did we really learn anything from that history? And my friend Harshita have really mentioned, very beautifully mentioned about how host communities can see refugees as enemies. But who are the real enemies? Are the refugees or the people who are producing refugees or forcing people to flee from their country and come to your country? So I think the misinformation, disinformation, all this playing a huge role in terms of failing to protect fellow human. Of course, the Myanmar military junta, as my brother Nay San Lwin mentioned, Arakan Army, and such groups who are persecuting minorities and people from disadvantaged communities and marginalized people are being cruel, mirroring the Nazis. But do the people who claim to be democratic, who claim to be humane, who claim to be protector of democracy, wish to be mirroring those groups who are persecuting fellow human? With that, I think I would like to, looking at the time, I would like to end here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ali, for your insightful thoughts. And honestly, it was a complete pleasure hearing you. And I wish you that your work may offer hope to these deprived communities for people. As we wrap up, today's webinar, I want to extend my deepest gratitude to our speakers, Nay San Lwin, Aisha Ghazi, Zarni Soe, Harshita Rathore, and Ali Johar, for their powerful words and stories, and of course, unwavering dedication. I believe that this discussion reminds us that solidarity goes beyond acknowledgement. As you all said, that it requires action. It also means that we should amplify marginalized voices and hold a system of operation that is accountable, and build a world where everyone, regardless of their status, identity, and gender, have the dignity of the right and respect. To our audience, thank you for being part of this conversation. Let's carry these lessons forward and work together to create more just and compensate world. Take care, stay safe. Let's keep such conversations going. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.